Captain Lil Paul couldn't keep her tail from wagging as they zoomed in on the port. Ashenduct was a well-named spaceport, stolen from the Regrin Corporation some 100 years ago as they fell into bankruptcy. Its proper name was Station 98237, Cruel Space Adjacent, but they called it Ashenduct because troublemakers were reduced down by the sheer amount of over-enthusiastic laser fire until the only thing left was the ash in the ducts. Of course, it's a pirate station, so troublemakers are those who are stupid enough to damage the station itself, and that's about it. Of course, it's a pirate station, meaning there is always at least a few hilariously stupid people getting lit up by the guards. They were considered part of the local entertainment.
Captain, we have our landing permissions. We've got a dock and are heading to it.
Hani says from nearby, and she nods. Most of her command crew are either multi-limbed species or non-limbed species. They can either press all the buttons or pay massive attention to when they need to press that one all-important button. The ship goes in smoothly, and she nods before Hani goes through all the docking sequences, flipping each of the switches in order with her 6 arms faster than most other races could. As a BIH 111, her sensory antennae were so sensitive that the little lights on the panel were nothing but a redundancy, as she could straight up pick out the electromagnetic currents running beneath them. If she wasn't so dim as to be unquestioning of her captain, then by species alone she'd be in engineering and working on sniffing out the tiny bits of wear and tear that naturally builds up over time in any electronic system.
Good. Lock us in nice and tight while I get myself and my team ready.
She says before turning on the speakers all over the ship.
Shifts 4 through 8 are allowed to do whatever so long as they're back in 12 hours. Shifts 9 and 10 are on resupply duty, and the rest are to hold down the ship. Standard port plan unless you're part of my little getaway, which means get your weapons on and check them 3 times each.
She orders the ship and cuts off the two-way as nearly half the ship starts cheering about how it's their turn to have fun.
All right, girls. I'm a comm call away if you need me.
Lil Pa says as she rises up from her laying position in the command couch and quickly pads out of the room.
Enjoy the date, Captain.
Jingay chirps out as the limbless woman shakes the tip of her tail at her with a huge smile. The TRC-1100 number 4 would be almost threatening, shaking the axiom-infused rattle at the tip of her tail at her, but the woman's too dim to actually use it properly. If she had grown up in primitivism, she'd have died as a child. Deep Crag Nagasha have a fairly harsh homeworld.
I will,
She says. There's no real point getting angry at the living answering machine whose name literally translates to kinda stupid in an older Nagasha language.
Captain.
Jingai begins before she can properly leave the bridge.
Yes?
It's my turn with Brent next, right? I just wanted to make sure things weren't shifted around again. It kept happening when I was married, and I never even really met him before I was recruited.
Jingai asks, and despite herself, Lil Pa feels a twist of pity.
You're next. Unless he gets hurt for some reason, you're going to have a good night with him.
She promises, and the snake woman's smile is enormous as she hisses in anticipation. She'll have to speak to Miles, make sure he doesn't get cold feet. She leaves the ecstatic snake woman to her fantasies and quickly pads her way through her ship. The forward airlock is where she and the team are leaving from. The girls on the supply run and are using the rear airlock, closer to the storage bays. She cannot keep the leer off her face as the door to the forward airlock opens. 10 men in different levels of armor, mixed and matched with rugged casual wear and a massive amount of weapons. The big stompy black boots were universal, although the knives strapped to a lot of them were not. All in all, they looked like they walked out of a cheesy beefcake-filled action movie. They all had at least a pistol on them, with Brent, her boy, having his gigantic long-range rifle on his back and a bandolier of massive ammunition for it. With that, he could reach out and kill just about anyone in the station from anywhere in the station. His favorite pistol was tucked near his heart, and his service one was strapped to his thigh. His jacket and loose pants give him an air of both mystery and danger, with the sheer amount of obvious ordnance tied to him. Ryuk was testing out the edge of a long, curved sword, while Lu smiled nastily at him with his shining hook-ended swords. The two had apparently gotten into a cultural pissing contest that had stopped just short of someone getting stabbed, and from the look of both of them, neither was backing down. The fact that each also had what were called shotguns slung over their backs with a belt of ammo on made them excellent opposites. Actually, considering they were both wearing identical outfits, but for the swords made it a very strange case in opposites. Armored vests to show off the incredible definition in their smaller frames. Loose pants tucked into the boots with pockets full of chemical explosives and a knife in each boot. The pistol on their thighs completed the image. Sai has dressed himself in smartly cut and colorful dark blue and green robes that poorly conceal numerous weapons that are so badly hidden they draw attention away from the pistol and knife in his sash. A common trick among pirates. He catches on quick. Around his head is a white wrapping that seems both religious and exotic, especially the brightly flashing gemstone which will grab most, if not all, the attention on him. Very clever, the knife and pistol are practically invisible now, and she can also make out a little bit of armor poking out from underneath. A helmet. He's hiding armor under that big flashy target. Brilliant. Marcus is the most obviously armored with a full set of bronzed ablative plating minus a helmet, and has both a primitive shield of enormous size and with a large V on it and a spear in addition to his pistol and knives, and seeing her gaze, he turns the shield around to reveal the disassembled rifle on the other side. Smart. Jean-Luc is in casual wear compared to everyone else with his bulky jacket. Then he opens it to reveal both armor and enough explosives that he's guaranteed to be stopped by station security. The massive grin on his face almost has her roll her eyes. Yep, he's the stupid one this trip. Jake is shirtless and standing like a titan over the rest to reveal his chiseled physique. He's one of the only ones with a standard weapon in the form of a plasma cannon that he's lifting as if in the middle of an exercise routine. An anti-vehicle grade plasma cannon. The pistols strapped to each thigh and massive knives in his boots are just part of the scenery when someone's carrying that much weapon. Let alone the fact that the man is just that much man. Victor is his fierce competition with a massive crew-scale laser repeater, an area denial weapon for when you need a bunker secure. The man's black shirt is so tight it's effectively painted on and only seems on to support his bandolier of throwing knives and extra ammo for the pistol strapped to his left thigh. Beck has seemingly airbrushed himself to look like a jackass with his flowing jacket and decorative armor plating. He looks like an oversized child playing space pirate. Looks like he's playing pirate, but the eye patch is clearly a material that he can see through. The wig sewn into his tricorn hat is hiding the chin strap of his helmet, and there are little pinches in his clothing to show that he's probably the most well-armored of the bunch, just with a cheap costume over it. His weapons have been painted to look like oversized toys, but are clearly too hefty to be anything but lethal. Clever, if annoying. At first, Franklin can't be seen. Then he steps to the side to reveal the strange glowing gauntlets with a half-massive ring sticking out the side of each one. She can physically see the axiom energy stored in the things, and they're growing brighter by the moment as he adjusts and tampers with them. He's dressed almost formally, looking more like he's ready for a night on the town, and his weapons can't even be seen at first. Concealed shoulder holster and his pants have a slight bulge where they hang over his boots to show a knife tucked away. The gauntlets with the axiom pouring off them are really concerning.
All right, just what's the plan you idiots are following?
She asks after her scan of the men.
Some of you are dressed as kidnap bait. Others look like they want to wage straight-up war with the station, and the rest have stepped out of an early act in a porno with too much plot and not enough cock. Most of you are some combination of the three.
Then the illusion is working.
Sai announces with a theatrical clap of his hands, and Beck breaks out into laughter followed by the rest after a few moments of strained looks. She glares at them in response.
Captain, we're all ready for a war, yet we're also ready to put on a show as needed. So we need to look good.
He says, and both Victor and Jake flex harder, causing their arms to bulge outwards in a tantalizing display of power.
We need to be able to defend ourselves if things go wrong, so we need to be dangerous.
He continues, and Jean-Luc pulls out a launcher for his explosive ordnance, where and how he had been hiding that is going to be bothering her for a long time.
Finally, we need to get it all past security, so it needs to be dismissed as a show.
Yarr! Beck shouts in glee, and everyone around him rolls their eyes with a fond smile.
So yeah, we look like kidnap bait straight out of a combination action movie and porno. That's deliberate. We fully expect to shoot and even kill more than a few when we're out tonight because we need to make a damn statement. We may be men in a woman's galaxy, but we are not to be underestimated no matter what we look like.
Brent explains and Lil Pa runs it through her head a few times before shrugging.
Fine. But there's going to be a penalty if any of you need rescue due to stupid.
Such as,
Beck asks, and she gives him a stern look.
If even one of you falls to stupid, then I'm moving the stills and locking the door. None of you will even taste what comes out of them for a week.
She threatens and cannot help but smile as the look of horror crosses all of their faces. No doubt the ones that don't drink are dreading how angry the others would be.
Good. Now it's going to be you boys and about a quarter of our combat girls. Mech suits get you shot by security, so they'll be packing lasers and some of the plasma we grabbed out of our raid. In close quarters, armor's only good for deflecting glancing blows from plasma, and becomes a branding iron after only a few shots from the lasers. There's an unspoken law in pirate stations that those who wear energy shields get stabbed, so rely on not being hit more than resisting a hit. Understand?
She asks and they nod.
Good. Also, if I or any of my girls tell you to do something, then it happens. Understand?
Another nod from them.
Good. One last thing. The new recruits are with us. This is their test of blades.
She says and notices the confusion.
They're Nagasha. There's a lot of different types all over the galaxy, and the test of blades is a way they say to go through a great trial to find worth. I don't damn know. It's part of a bunch of stupid old stories that a quarter of the slithery witches are named after.
She explains, thinking to Jinge, whose own name is part of the stories. The silly girl had tried to explain it a few, but it was just a long tale of some poor, dim girl being taken advantage of over and over again. It went on so long that she couldn't even pay attention to it. It was just flat out depressing, and there were apparently 102 such stories.
Woohoo! We're shipping out with the hunks.
One of the new girls exclaims in joy. She and her opposite are Greater Plains Nagasha each. They're both massive tryhards, their tails covered with tattoos and their hair dyed with massive piercings and chains running all over the reptilian half of their bodies. Bits of pointless scrap armor adorn their shoulders and shirts torn to the point that they barely covered the girls' nipples.
Will you two idiots at least try not to get shot? This is a pirate station full of wound-up tense slags that will be drooling over our boys. The only reason we're trusting you fools to go out with them is that they're some of the toughest fighters on the ship. Don't think this is a game. This isn't going to be fun. You girls are slithering over a field of blades now. If you want to keep your scales, you'll pay some damn attention.
Jin II, in assault on the ship, hisses at them. She's a desert Nagasha, TRC 1102, six-armed, and with the fact that she's completely covered her torso and face with black and white war paint, says to everyone that she's out for blood and murder. That she's got a pair of plasma swords, a laser cannon, and 2 plasma pistols holstered around her waist, says that she's clearly ready to fight and kill the entire station on her own. Generally, a desert Nagasha's mood can be judged by their paint. The more of it there is, the less room they have for jokes and messing about. The only level higher would be the painting of her arms as well, which would mean that she's genocidically serious rather than merely homicidally serious. Feeling neutral meant the eyes, lips, and cheeks would all have paint, and never trust a desert Nagasha without paint.
Holy shit, you look ready to rock.
Franklin remarks, and Jin gives him a glare.
Yup, straight out of a rock concert.
Jake says,
I'm not sure what the paint means, but it looks like you're ready to either wipe out the station on your own or pull out an instrument and get into a literal battle of the bands.
Jin slowly slithers up to the large, darker-skinned man and grabs him by the belt to heft him upwards.
I am showing naught but focus. I have neither time nor inclination to entertain stupidity. If any of you end up taken, I will kill everything in my path to get you back. You want to avoid a bloodbath? Then you will not allow yourself to be taken. Understand?
Understood.
The men state as one, and she nods. She examines them all closely and nods.
Hidden armor and a full armory worth of weapons. Good.
She says, then looks back at Jake, who she's still holding up by his belt.
You will be joining me in my quarters tonight.
She straight up tells the big man.
Emma gonna make you sweat off that makeup in ways you'll be bragging about for years.
Sweat? Nagasha don't sweat.
She says.
Good time as any to learn.
He remarks, and there's a slight quirk of her lip. She sets him down calmly and nods.
We're ready. Janet, Lisa, you follow me at all times and offer fire support no matter what. If I point my weapons at someone, then you need to be ready to kill them.
You got it, boss lady.
Janet cheers.
Lasers hot and ready to burn.
Lisa adds, it's all Jin can do to not grab their weapons from them and start beating them over the head with them. They'll learn. They'll learn or they'll die.
All right, ladies, gentlemen, we going in.
Agenda orders before padding to the final few airlock doors, and all but one hiss open as the tiny spot between both major airlocks fills with a touch of atmosphere, barely enough for privacy.
The rest of the security is stationed on the way to the meeting place. We are not screwing this up.
Holy crap, are we among pirates or more military?
Jake asks himself, and Franklin audibly snorts in amusement.
More than half all pirates ever are former military, be it in the galaxy or on the high seas.
He notes as he draws a large amount of axiom out of the air and molding it into power that lifts him off the ground.
Hey, finally got it.
He exclaims happily as he pulls out a pen and notepad and quickly starts writing down the details of whatever the hell he had just done.
Oh, God, he can fly now. Nowhere is safe.
Victor notes, and Franklin lets out a bark of laughter.
Keep low. Flying when every girl's got an itchy trigger finger makes you nothing more than a target.
Jin remarks with a glare at him. Yes, it is intriguing. Yes, the possibilities are immense. And flight is considered a very difficult thing to do outside of very specific axiom disciplines. But that's for later. Now is time for wariness in battle.
Just a quick reminder. We've got half our security at intervals between here and Jen's bar and Bargain, our meeting place with the other captains. The other half is already there. They're part of the crowd until we need help. Then they're our backup shooting the enemy in the back. Understand?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
The men say as one, and Jin nods as Agenda groans in frustration.
Good. Now, Captain, we're ready.
She says, and Agenda nods. A command to her implant, and the airlock fully opens. Without a word, she leads them through the mobile tunnel that had been maneuvered to link up with the ship proper. Short of a fancy docking platform with atmospheric shields, these umbilical airlocks were the best bet. Certainly easier than trying to get every whack job inventor in the galaxy to try and stick to standard models for airlocks, or somehow keep a station's power running below standard scanning frequencies with dozens of docking platforms. Legit places could ramp the power up. Ashen Duct had to at least pretend to be hiding.
Sweet, come to mama.
A random pirate yells the moment she and her group slip into the station proper.
Pay up.
One of the men says, and she glances back in time to see Beck pass Marcus a credit disc.
Allah be blessed, not even 5 seconds.
Beck mutters before patting his outfit down to check his obviously hidden weapons.
Can it? We're moving, gents.
Brent orders as he takes the lead with a thumb tucked into his belt and a clear swagger in his step.
Are those men?
Hey girls, there's an entire troop of guys.
Holy crap, where did they come from?
The questions and questing of the station start out fast and like a wave crash through the station, and soon there's a thick crowd. The aim assist of Jin's weapons cause them to part and let her walk with her men who are glancing around and checking to see if anyone's brave enough to rush them. She leads them through the station with the absurdly pissed-off looking Jin scaring away most of the crowd with the men conversing in what sounds like 3 different languages from their homeworld. Either that or they had a widely used language that didn't so much adapt to other foreign languages as outright mug them for spare expressions. There's a shout behind her, and she turns to see Franklin seem to mime out fighting something before the axiom around him crackles and runs down both him and a figure that he's pushing back. It takes a moment for it to connect exactly what's going on before a stronger burst of energy from Franklin knocks out the figure and he lets her drop. The moment she's out of contact with him, she's completely invisible again.
BRC 1100 number 4.2.
Jin notes calmly as she has her heavy plasma pointed right where she dropped.
Since when the hell do the races have decimal points?
Franklin demands it.
When there's a stable subspecies, the 4.1s can use the axiom in their skin to look like anyone else. The 4.2s are invisible by default and require concentration to turn visible. They're called cloaken.
Shapeshifters and spies, got it. How'd you know Frank?
Miles demands Franklin, who grins.
I'm pretty sure I rate Adept at this point. She stood out like a flare.
He says before holding out his hand palm towards the downed cloaken. Lightning pours from it to wrap around the invisible form, both bringing it to visibility and raising it in the air.
I take it invisible clothing isn't widely produced.
He says, bushing a few outlined feathers to the side in curiosity as he examines the form.
It's expensive.
Agenda says as Franklin levitates the naked form writhed in lightning upwards. She's not twitching, and there's no smoke, so it's probably just a light show he's using to scare off further attempts. Either that or he's discovering new fetishes. Not her business. That nerd is not her man, and she does not care who he sticks it in so long as the crew doesn't break out into violence about it.
If the entertainment is finished?
Jin asks in a tone cold enough that if she had any training as an adept, she'd have frosted the deck plating beneath them.
Yeah, just need to take some notes.
Franklin mutters as he puts his pad in the hand holding up the cloaken and starts scribbling into it.
Take her with you and do it at the bar.
Brent orders and Franklin tucks the pen behind his ear and slips the notepad away before nodding.
If you boys are done,
Agenda asks and nearly scowls at the salute thrown at her.
we're moving.
She orders and begins moving again, the aim assist of Jin's weapons causing the ever-growing crowd to part until a heavily armed and armored security officer stomps up to them in a full-on dark gray power suit. The words ashen duct in white under a black marking of a tiny doodle of the station are emblazoned on her shoulder pads.
This station isn't a flesh market. Not for men. We don't need that kind of heat, Lil Paw.
They're under orders to straight up kill anyone that tries to take them. They're part of my crew, and part of a deal I'm about to make.
This isn't...
It's not a flesh trade. I found the deal of a lifetime, and it's one you can only take once, but others can get it too. I intend to milk some favors out of other captains I'm meeting in Jen's bar and bargain.
The fuck is it called that for anyways?
One of the men, Lou, she guesses, asks just loud enough to be heard.
It's a bar where every booth has privacy screens, meaning it's perfect for making deals.
The security guard replies, clearly trying to look good for the men that can't even see her through the suit of power armor.
We're moving again. Enough distractions.
The fuck are you bringing her for?
Jake asks Franklin, even as they start moving.
Fucking invisibility, dude.
He says before grinning and...
We'll have stealth on a level that the Predator will shit his pants.
He continues in a human language that is only understood by the men around him who cackle and grin at the suggestion. The brassy bong of a head running straight into Marcus' large domed shield causes everyone to turn and see a tiny woman with bright green skin and long black hair lying down dazed on the floor.
What just happened?
Agenda demands, even as Jin groans into three of her hands.
The retarded BMO 1100 number 7 made a dash for the men and collided with Marcus's shield. No, he didn't deflect her. He didn't even see her before she knocked herself further into mental weakness.
Is this normal? What the hell?
Marcus demands as Brent grabs the tiny green-skinned woman by the belt of her pants and tosses her to one of the watching crowd. He then tosses over a credit disc to the woman who caught her.
Drag her to a doctor or at least someplace safe.
He orders the woman who nods.
Yes, this is normal. Gobes are always like that. They don't consider things, they just rush in at a full sprint and expect it to work out. Them and Cobes and Slobes are problems the galaxy over, more vermin than actual people.
Jin explains as she glares at the green pest being dragged away. Unlike actual vermin, they couldn't just be fumigated, trapped, or thrown out in an airlock. They were people, and that made it all the more aggravating.
Okay, that's it. I'm done. Girls fall in and make a path.
Agenda barks and pulses of plasma and red laser beams launch into the air, with the tinge of ozone causing a good chunk of the crowd to part as the security moves in. We're moving, she commands, which brings the attention of the men back down. They'd been looking up towards where the laser and plasma fire had gone.
So the plasma unravels that fast?
Brent asked in surprise. The sheer short range of the weapons was baffling. Yes, the plasma guns were said to be short-ranged, but the blasts had dissipated maybe 3 to 4 stories up. 5 at most.
Their lasers can't compete with thermal bloom either.
Jake notes as he rolls his shoulders. He'd looked up in time to see a few flares along the laser beams, which killed all its power to the point that it acted more like a bright laser pointer at the ceiling some 10 stories up.
That just means we've got the range, my friends. But the first idiot to get cocky will likely get his shot off.
Victor adds himself, and Agenda just shakes her head. She needs to learn their language, whatever it's called.